I'm Chris.
I'm Sandy.
And this is Parenting Autism. Here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 133 of the Parenting Autism podcast. Today, as always, I have my wonderful, beautiful wife with me, Sandy.
Hi, honey.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi.
So, this subject is just not what we were hoping to talk about on our show ever. Ever. So.
But we're here. And
we've been to the hospital. We went to the ER. I don't even know where we left off. Did we decide we were going to the ER?
The last time you had asked everybody to pray for me because I had gotten some blood test results that were very concerning, and we were going to go to the ER. So we did.
Yeah.
And I had to get a blood transfusion, 3 bags of blood, and some other treatments, and including a bone marrow biopsy, as well as what is called plasmapherisis, because my blood was extremely thick. And so we had to get that thinned out and replace the bad plasma with good plasma. I was in there for 7 days and 6 nights, and on the day that I was discharged, I learned that the bone marrow biopsy came back and confirmed that I do have a rare blood cancer that is called Waldenström macroglobulinemia. And I'm reading that because it is a mouthful. They call it WM. So it's easy for me to Google WM blood cancer, and then it pops up, and then I recognize it. But yeah, it's been a bit of a journey. So that was the week before last. And then this past week, I've just been trying to get a lot of things caught up around the house. On Monday, I actually felt great because
you had new blood.
I had new blood. I had more. I was no longer severely anemic. I no longer had the thick blood, which that was considered crisis mode. And I got sleep finally, after being in the hospital for 7 days. I got some sleep on Saturday and Sunday night. And so Monday I woke up and I felt like a new woman, and it was great. And my number, although there's a specific
IgM
blood count that they monitor called IgM, and it was up over 5,000. I think it was even greater than that because they had a greater sign that it was greater than 5850. Like they didn't record any higher. And then it came down into the 3,000, went back up to the 4,000.
And what's the normal range?
270. And so we had to get me under 2,000 for me to be able to come home. Bryce was having a piano recital at our local lyric theater, and I really didn't want to miss that. And so I had asked everyone on our prayer chain to pray that my number would drop under 2,000. Well, when it went up to 4, they told me, you're not going to get out of here on Saturday. It's probably going to be Monday or Tuesday because you're going to have another treatment or 2. So, and I had this port in my neck that they had to do the treatments through. It was very, very uncomfortable. So I was pretty bummed that after the first treatment, the number went higher instead of lower within 12 hours. But the second treatment, our prayer was answered, and it dropped to 1869. And the nurse couldn't believe it. The doctors couldn't believe it. I was excited. You were excited. And I got to go home that day. But I went home with the news that I did have the cancer. It's not curable, but it's treatable. So we are grasping and focusing on every positive thing. We are people of faith. We have prayed about this, and we have placed this at the throne of the Lord. He knows our request. He knows we believe. He knows we trust this plan. We know I'm going through this, and you're going through this, babe, and Bryce is going through this for a reason, and we want God to be glorified through everything because He has the plan. He created me. He knew all of this was going to happen, and for the reasons, whether He's going to choose to do like a wild miracle, like they take my test results and everything comes back normal, believe me, that would be the ultimate. Like the lady with the blood disease that touched the hem of Jesus' garment and got instant healing. It would be that kind of miracle. But I don't know if that's His choice for me. And if it's not, that's okay. It may be that my body will respond to these treatments and I will be able to not be symptomatic for a while. They say it will come back, but we don't know when it will come back. And I could still have a lot of quality of life. So that's our prayer that way too, that my body is going to respond well to the treatments that I'm receiving. And then we just kind of go day to day. And that's kind of how we've been living the past 2 weeks, is day to day. You know, and we do this podcast because it's parenting autism. And, you know, you go back to when we got Bryce's stroke diagnosis, right? How we handled that. And then we got Bryce's autism diagnosis. And again, autism is something that there's no cure, but it's treatable, right? There's ways you can try to make things better and create a better quality of life and be able to enjoy your days together. And that's what we're doing with this as well. So I guess we've kind of had some practice, just not with the cancer word. And I think when people hear cancer, we know it sends a shiver through your body because it's so unknown. Especially when you hear rare cancer, kind of sends 2 shivers through your body because it's so unknown. And, you know, it's just been very interesting, but I feel like I really do have joy. And I had really prayed for that while we were on our vacation. And I even bought a Christmas tree that said joy on it that I wanted to put out for this Christmas season, not knowing. I knew I was sick, but I didn't know I had this. I just knew I wasn't feeling well, and I felt sad. And I got my joy back while I was in Georgia, and that was the week before we came back and everything kind of spiraled. And Bryce wanted the tree that said peace because it was bigger, which is fine, same design. He likes all things big. But he bought peace with his money. I bought joy with my money as our souvenirs. And now we have peace and joy sitting on our fireplace mantle in the home to remind me every day that God's filling me with joy and covering me with peace. And I don't think anything's by accident. I think He impressed upon us to get those. So I would know that. And we could share on here a few things where God showed up. He's had His fingerprints all over us the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, we did pray, you know, that He would give us comfort and peace and remind us of His presence, and He has. He has.
And we'll share some of those, but I think it's important that you share also what you've been going through the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, so we to begin with, we dropped Bryce off at your mom and dad's when we knew we were going to the ER. Mm-hmm. So we did that, and
we packed a bag knowing I'd get admitted.
Mm-hmm. And so we went early afternoon on a Sunday, and we're like, oh, how's the ER going to be on a Sunday? You know, a lot of the old thinking is you go to the ER on a Sunday and not much is happening. Well, when we showed them your paper with your results, like things went into a higher gear, and they started doing all kinds of scans and tests. And then at one point they transferred you to the other hospital branch with hematology oncology.
Yeah, they had already started my blood transfusion and then transferred me. Mm-hmm.
And so I came home for something, didn't I? Or I went to go get him.
You went to go get Bryce so you could take him to see that I was okay.
Yeah. And so we did that. And so Bryce was there. He saw Mommy in the hospital, and he knows that hospitals mean serious injury or very sick. So I just told him that you were very sick, and that's why you're in the hospital. And so he had all kinds of questions, and so
I think his first question for me when he came in the hospital room, he saw me, he goes, "Mommy, are you going to die?" I said, "No, I'm not going to die, buddy. They're just giving me some new blood and some new medicine, just to keep him calm." But yes, we've had a lot of questions. How is Bryce? And I'm sure our listeners are wondering, how is Bryce dealing with all of this? So you kind of got
when we got
that.
the initial thought of what it was going to be, it was between two different cancers.
Yeah.
One that was rare, which is this one, and one that was more rare and more devastating, which is not the one that you have, thank God.
Yes.
So at that point, Bryce and I are having conversations, and it was obviously very upsetting for me. So
He's seen tears, right?
he saw me crying, and "Daddy, why are you crying?" And I said, "Well, that's because Mommy's really sick." And, well, what's wrong with Mommy? And so I told him that, you were very sick, and I forgot what else I told him.
I think you did tell him the word cancer, didn't you? Was it at that point or
I
later?
might have, but I didn't tell you this before, but he told me, he says, "Well, Daddy," he says, I don't want a new Mommy. I like the one that I have. And I don't want a new Mommy." I know, Bryce, there won't be any new mommies. We want the one that we have. So at that point, I kind of understood that he knew the weight of the situation, but he didn't know the weight of the situation. You just can't change mommies, right? You just can't do that. And so he in his own way was processing what was going on, and I felt like I had to prepare him in a way that he knew that you were really sick.
Yeah, and I agree. Bryce is pretty black and white, so it's better if you give him more facts.
Mm-hmm. So he's processing everything in his own way.
Yeah, when he came to the hospital, probably the day you told him about the cancer, and I didn't know he had said that to you, but he said to me, I said, "How was your day?" And he goes, "Well, I didn't have therapy today or school." And I said, "Oh, well, that's good for you." And he goes, "Well, no, not really." And trust me, normally that would be a good day for him. And he said, "No, not really, because my mom's sick and I don't want to lose my mom."
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I said, "You're not going to lose your mom, buddy." But my heart inside was like crushing.
I mean, it was hard because when you hear the word cancer,
Death comes to mind. Imminent death comes to mind.
Yeah, that's the first thing that comes to mind. And you're just devastated.
And I was symptomatic. I think that doesn't help.
Right. You had symptoms.
I was pretty sick.
So, I mean, all these things go through your mind when that word is said and confirmed. Like I was coming home with Bryce and your car was in the driveway, but you weren't home, right? And we didn't know, are you going to come home?
Yeah.
And I wake up in the morning and you're not there. And it's all these feelings just come up, and it's hard to even talk sometimes,
It was a hard week.
Because you all these things are going through your mind, and that's the first wave is this is not good. So you just, and at that point, I just reached out to all of our friends on Facebook and said, listen, we need prayer for this because we're trusting in God. And that doesn't mean we can't be sad or emotional.
Right.
Right. God has a plan. There will be a testimony with this. I mean, there already has been testimonies and blessings. And, we're leaning heavily on him like we did when Bryce, that they announced that he had like a 50% chance to live,
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have to do, because without God, what do you have, right? Without our faith, we'd
be lost.
We'd be lost. That's a perfect word for it. And we don't know if God's ultimate decision is to heal you, or how long he wants to prolong your life, or what. But we know we want his will because it will be done, right?
Yes, and we're here now, so I think, you get that perspective of don't take any days for granted.
You can't.
For sure.
Because before we got those blood test results, cancer was the last thing on our mind. I mean, it wasn't even a remote possibility, like not even a speck in my mind.
Yeah.
And everything can change on a dime. You just don't know what's living inside of you while you're here, until it rears its ugly head. And
so, you talk about waves. So I went in on Sunday. Monday and Tuesday was kind of a wait and see situation. I got all my blood put in me Sunday night.
They were doing all these scans,
CT
scans of
and
your
getting
brain,
results
your
on
abdomen,
all kinds of stuff, because we were looking for
more blood
tumors.
tests.
We were looking to see what's causing this. Why is she losing all this blood? And so then I knew when we went in, they're looking for cancer. What are they going to find? That's really it. I was anemic, and for those who know about hemoglobin or are learning about it, my number was down to 6.1, which is extremely low. It's amazing that I was functioning. And I was to the point that I almost wasn't functioning. So it was really
twice
bad.
Below the low limit.
And all of this really kind of started showing some flare-ups in July, but I thought I had heat stroke a couple of times. I've had numbness and tingling for years. I've gone through a lot of testing for MRIs on my brain, my spine. I did it in 2020. I did it again in 2022. I did nerve testing. I could have talked about some of this on the podcast. I've never gotten answers, and I've just learned to live with it. And then when I started getting severely anemic was when all these other signs started popping up. I did not know what they were. But as they became more and more, the fatigue was nuts. I am 55. Honestly, I thought some of this was menopause, because when you read the symptoms, you get headaches, you get severe fatigue, supposed to be, you get some night sweats. Well, all those are symptoms from my cancer and the anemia. So when I went to the doctor to request blood labs and see what the heck is going on, because I now was getting heart palpitations. Now I was getting where I couldn't make my bed without having to lay down because I was short of breath. I knew there was something more to it. I was going to go to a cardiologist, but I'm like, can we run some blood work? And she's like, it sounds like it's just, menopause. I'm like, really? Well, if that's the case, I'd be happy, but I think it's more than that. So we ran all these tests, and that's when everything got flagged. But on Wednesday, we knew at that point my blood was thick. And I was just reading this today, babe, as I was saying, as I'm reading about the cancer now, because I would not let myself read about anything while I was in the hospital. And neither did you.
Knew for sure.
Right. We didn't go chase down any rabbit holes. So I guess not everybody has the thick blood, and they call that hyperviscosity syndrome or something like that. But they put in here that is an in bold emergency because it can cause other problems. And if you don't get it treated, then it can start affecting you. It can give you a stroke or it can put you in a coma. So I think that's why they got to get my IgM down. And that's why they were working so hard to help my blood thin out. And the only way you do that is through that paraphesis, right? So I knew I needed to get it down. I didn't know the extreme, but they did use the words crisis mode. So they're like, we got to get you out of crisis mode. I'm like, okay. So I had the bone marrow biopsy and the port in my neck put in within an hour of each other on Wednesday. And they waited probably about 3 hours after I had the port put in to try the first treatment because they were very anxious to get it started because of the severity of the situation. But as soon as they started even putting saline or whatever the lady was doing, it started burning me. And I could feel burning going into my neck and like across my throat and then to the right, up my ear, into my earlobe. And I was telling her it's burning. And then she's like, is it now? I'm like, yeah, it's spreading, And then I'm starting to panic a little bit, like, what's going on here? And that was the first wave of tears. Because honestly, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I had family visiting. I had friends visiting. We were in a wait and see. I'm not having the problems I was having before because I got all the blood. So my anemia was gone and I wasn't in pain. My headaches were, fading out, which was great. So other than lack of sleep, I was doing all right. But then that happened, and I even got through the bone marrow okay. I compared it to labor birth with Bryce, and let me tell you, that was worse. So I made it through, which was good. It was mind over matter. And but they started doing that, and I thought to myself briefly, what if I can't do this? I mean, like, what if my body is not going to respond well to this? I have choking issues. We talk about this on the podcast. That's why I have to always have water, and sometimes I start coughing on here and things like that. Well, that day they couldn't even do it, right? So the second day they're like, we're going to try again. And I had different tech. Whatever he did it too fast and it shot, felt like a puff of air or something going straight back into my throat. And I started coughing to where like my vocal cords went into their spasm. I couldn't breathe. It felt like I couldn't breathe at all. I couldn't talk. They don't know about my coughing problem. I had my water sitting on my lap.
Just in case.
Because that's what helps me, right? Because once I can sip water and it can get through the pinhole for air, then my brain will know, okay, I can breathe and it relaxes. And I have to do that because it's a psychological thing. Well, the lady didn't know that. So she turns around, she sees my water. She thought water went down the wrong pipe. So she's like, why did you let her have water? So she goes to grab my cup and I'm like grabbing my cup to keep it. I can't talk. I'm still coughing horribly, trying to, I'm like trying to catch my breath, all that. So anyway, and then tears are coming down my face. But that happens because I can't breathe. And then I finally got water. I finally was trying to like give them like okay signals with my hands, trying to let them know I need this. Just wait. I'm putting up one finger like, please wait. I'll tell you. Oh, it was horrible. It was like the worst 2 minutes of panic. Mm-hmm. And then once I did get my breath and I could tell them I'm okay, I have an issue, I need my water. I caught that out, and then I'm still trying to recover because it still will take a minute or two, a few minutes for my cords to relax to where I can actually speak again. It's horrible. It's horrible, horrible, horrible. And at that point, it was the worst timing that it could happen. And at that point, I truly wanted to scream at the top of my lungs, I hate this. the whole thing. It just like hit me, everything that was going on, but I couldn't. So I just let some tears come out. Then I'm like, we're going to get through this, because I'm telling myself, Sandy, if you don't do this, you're not going to live, and you have to be here for Bryce and Chris. You're going to do this. So I did it. So once they figured that out, and then they went slower, and we got me started, and I got calm, then I made it through. So I had my music. I was relaxed. When I came back, my nurse says, how was it? I'm like, it was worse than the bone marrow biopsy. She's like, what? But I told her why. So the next day, I went in, I had the same tech. And he's like, we're going to go slow. I'm like, yes, we are. So we knew what to do, and it was perfect.
Yeah. So I think when we were in the hospital, they just kept adding things that they were doing to you. Like first, obviously, they put the IV in. Then they did the blood test. Oh, now you're going to go down for a chest x-ray.
Oh, yeah.
Check your heart. Okay, get back from that. Okay, we're going to send you for a CT of your brain and a CT of your abdomen. All along, they're not really telling us much, which obviously they didn't know what was going on. So get the results back from that and more blood work. Oh, we're going to transfer you to the other hospital that specializes in blood work. Okay. Get there. And then, okay, well, we're going to give you some more blood. So you get more blood. And then next day, you have to have like a blood transfusion. We got to put a port in. And it's like, it was getting worse and worse and worse with all these things they were doing to you.
And he mentioned cancer on Monday.
And I'm like, this is not the direction that we need to be going in, right? We need to be getting better and less tubes and less monitor and less attention and get out of here, not more and more and more and more. We got to do a bone biopsy. Oh, great. And it was just one thing after another. But hindsight, we're thankful for all that this doctor really seemed to have nailed it. Once you got to the other hospital, he had a good idea of what it was. And this 1.2 million people in the United States are diagnosed with cancer every year. Only 1,000 of those are diagnosed with this particular cancer. And there's not many doctors out there that have seen this or even treated it.
Yeah.
And he has 5 patients
now
that he's currently treating for this with chemo and other things.
Yeah.
So we're thankful that he found it quickly. And we talked. We said, if we were in another hospital in a rural area or somewhere where they weren't familiar with this, we'd still be in the hospital looking for what the problem is, I think, And so, we researched it. We joined a Facebook group about this cancer, and we got a lot of answers, and they were very helpful with questions to ask the doctor. So we think that 4 to 6 months of chemo, we can stabilize and build the wall up against this cancer.
Yeah. So I left, and it was under 2,000. I do want to share about that specific number, and then I'll update them to currently where we are. So there were three ways actually that God really showed up to me while I was in the hospital. And it was for you too, but a lot for me. So I got there Sunday night. I had a really nice roommate in a shared room. We had good conversations. She was super sweet. And she'd like to watch football with me too. And I did go in on Sunday. And for you Eagle fans, yes, I represented. I had my Eagle stuff on, and the Eagles won. So it made for a good Sunday. And they played Thursday night while I was in the hospital too. And believe me, I met a lot of Eagles fans because you brought me my Eagles blanket. I had my Eagles pajamas on that I got from my sister-in-law and brother. And I tried to make the most positive, fun things out of being there that I could. And
that's what
I lifted up the spirits of everybody else around me. And it was great. They told me they'll never forget me as a patient.
You have been so strong through this. I'm just amazed. When you went into the hospital, you had the joy of the Lord in your heart.
I did.
And when you came out of the hospital, you still have the joy of the Lord in your heart.
I do.
And that joy comes out of every pore in your body. And people around you are just amazed. And I'm amazed. I knew you're a strong woman. You're strong in your faith. And I mean, this is the ultimate test. And God is looking down on you and just smiling.
Thanks.
He is just so proud of you and your faithfulness. And you're in the Bible, you're in your journals, you're in your devotions daily. And we even were quoting Bible. I'm walking around your hospital bed quoting what God says, that he's going to be with us. He's our rock. He's going to hold us in his right hand, and he's going to protect us. And he's not here to harm us. It's all for the good in the end, right? So the strength that you have is just, I knew it, but it's just amazing. I don't even know how to put it into words. So.
I've got that verse from Nehemiah 8:10 that the joy of the Lord is my strength. And that's just like what I'm holding on to, because I do believe that joy can be a gift and that God's given it to me in spades. And I have an abundance of that. Yeah. Because he knew I would need this. And Bryce and I are singing. We're trying to sing it every day, but Believe For It by C.C. Winans, and he's singing the words with me. It's really sweet. We sing that for Mama and Papa today. But yeah, I just want to be a great testimony to him as well, as to how you handle things when they're not the things that you want to happen, but you believe God, for those things. So back to the hospital, right? No, thank you for sharing that. And then, so I was there and I was with her, and we were enjoying making the most of our time together in the hospital. Let's put it that way. And so then Monday night, I finally fell asleep. Me and my roommate, we finally fell asleep because we were having a hard time the night before because I was getting all those blood transfusions and the machine beeping, blah, blah, blah. So I fell asleep during the game, that Monday night game, and it was like 11, and she came in and she goes, okay, you're moving to your new room. I'm like, moving to my new room? And she's like, yeah. And I honestly, for a moment, thought, did I just wake up from this really bad dream that I was told that I had cancer and I don't, right? All this. So I got up and I said, am I walking? She's like, yeah, it's just across on the other side of the hallway. I'm like, okay. And she had already moved all my stuff. Like I was trying to come out of the fog. So I walk with my little pole that I got everything hooked up to, and we go over to my new bed, and now I have a private room, and now I have a view of the bridge lit up and the water, and I'm like, wow, I got upgraded. So I asked her, and I'd had her the night before. She's my night tech, and I said, why'd they move me? And she just goes, because of your diagnosis. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I hadn't received a diagnosis yet, but all signs were pointing to cancer. And then when the nurse came in, the day nurse, she introduced herself as an oncology. She said, we oncology nurses, we're a whole different breed. So I'm like, okay, I'm on the oncology side now, I think. And, like all these things are just bells were ringing. And then I was telling you my room changed, and I gave you the room number, and it was 318. And you're like, oh, 18. And if you listen to probably our very first podcast, we talked about Malachi, our first baby that we lost to trisomy 18. I think I actually said 13 in the podcast because I messed up, but trisomy 18. And when we lost him, I had been praying, God, can you just give me something to let me know that everything's going to be okay? I just need to know you're with me. He's okay. I know that. I know you got in, but I just need to know that when I see this, I just know it. Because I've heard other people share things like that, right? So there was something that happened, and he actually gave me the number 18. And he's like, 18 is going to be your number. And when you see 18, you're going to know I'm with you. And the first time I really saw that show up was when Bryce was born and was in the NICU. We were the 18th patient to sign in to the neurosurgeon. I walked over to the chair. There was a large mural on the wall, and it had an angel on there, and there was a little heart, and inside the heart was the letter M for Malachi. Number 18, angel on the wall, heart with Malachi. Okay, that's pretty clear that God was with us, with Bryce, with the neurosurgeon, and that he was going to be okay. And he was. He didn't have to have surgery on his brain.
Yeah.
So this 18 has shown up periodically in ways, but when we saw 318, we're like, oh, okay, God's moved you over there just to let you know he's with you, right? He's with us.
3 is big in the Bible.
3 is like, it is. And then I think I told you, he kind of told me later, that means the 3 of us are with you, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Ghost. That's why I really felt I got that message. Because I was playing my praise worship music in my earbuds, and I was walking around the hallway, and that was on Saturday morning when I got the news that it had dropped to 1869. And I'm like, oh.
Your blood number.
Yeah, that was
IgM.
my IgM number
Yep.
that dropped from a high 4,000 down to that number. And as I was walking around, I was like, oh, 18, right? Because you had said 18 again.
There it is, yep.
And when I walked around, the Lord goes, I gave you 1869 because, I'll cry. Because 18 means, hold on a minute, I gotta say it. Okay. 18 means I'm with you. 69 was the year I was born. He said, I've been with you since you were born.
Yes. Yeah.
So, how can you not have joy? He's been with me since I was born. He's made it clear. And now, that 1869, I know, was a special message for me because I had my blood work done this past Friday, 7 days later, and it's back up over 5,000.
Yeah.
So he dropped that to get me out of the hospital to answer my prayer for Bryce's recital and to give me that message.
And those are the blessings that you get, you know. Those are some of the signs, you know. It's just we have so many people out there praying for us, and God hears those prayers, and there's a lot of them going up, and we would appreciate you joining us as our podcast family to lift Sandy up in prayer whenever you think about us or her. And if you want to send a note of encouragement, you can send it to parentingautism@att.net, and she'll get those messages. And
pray for Chris and Bryce too. Really,
yeah,
it's a lot for all of us.
It's a whole
but we're getting a lot of support. One of my best friends started a meal train, so we've had people bringing us meals almost every night since we've been home. I started my chemo today. I can only do one of the treatments right now because my number really went up unexpectedly high again. So it's almost like bordering on that crisis mode again. But we're praying that the treatment I received this morning and that I will get again tomorrow morning will bring that number down.
So you don't have to have the
So I'll get labs again Friday. So the specific prayer this week is that the chemo will bring that IgM number down so that I do not have to get another port and more of the pheresis or whatever it is. Parapheresis.
Yeah,
parapheresis. Thank you. to bring it back down, because that's not the direction we want to go. We really want this to be able to do it from the chemo. And then if we get it under 4,000, more importantly, we can start the second medication that I need to have, because the one I got today just kills everything.
Yeah.
But the other one will target it and block it and close the doors so that it won't keep growing.
Yeah.
And that's what we want. We don't want it to come back, because if we kill it and it keeps coming back, I just have to keep doing this. But if we kill it and they stop it, then we can manage it. And so that's kind of where we are right now. The chemo treatment this morning, you went with me. Bryce stayed with mom and dad last night. So all of that went well. And he's taking all of this, honestly, really well. He's kind of getting the idea that, okay, mommy's going to have to go do some things. And then I get lots of kisses when I get back, but we're good. But anyway, they gave me like anti-nausea medication that should last for 3 days, a steroid that will help give me some extra strength, and then the chemo. And so really, I didn't have any nausea today, so I'm very grateful for that. I've had some fatigue. I have some, it's kind of weird. It makes me feel hot and cold going back and forth through my body, but it's going through all my blood. You got to think I have blood cancer that runs through your entire body. So because it's attacking everything in my entire body, I feel it all over. It's kind of, but it's not painful. And again, I'm so grateful that I'm not in pain. I'm extremely tired at times. It just wipes me out. And that makes it hard for me to help around the house and do things for you. So that's why I'm really grateful that people are at least helping us in that regard. It's a big deal,
for sure.
And
they've given us gift cards for meals.
Yes,
gift
and
cards
if they're
for
not local, we're
DoorDash.
getting gift cards. If people are local, they're bringing us food.
That's been wonderful.
Yeah, we feel a lot of love and outpour. I've had people send me puzzles because they know I like them. Just a real nice, just gifts I'm getting, and I definitely feel a lot of love poured out.
Yeah.
And we're going to get through this. It's going to be one day at a time. I'm sure, Bryce is going to continue to have questions as we go along the journey, and we'll answer them. I think one of my mommy goals is I want to keep things as normal as possible for him, because I find that he is expressing more about he likes things certain ways. They're getting a little more rigid on us. And even like routine, like at mom's this morning, he's like, I didn't know I had to do that. And I'm like, well, that's your routine every morning. I didn't know that was here. Okay. He can't transfer that somewhere else, right? School and therapies, we're glad that we were able to keep that pretty much, even while I was in the hospital, which was good. And I want that. I want him to have some normalcy. I want to have some normalcy. I want him to have some normalcy. I want you to have some normalcy. We can't control it all, of course, but wherever we can, we will. And we'll do good. I mean, okay, so we had this reading assessment.
Yeah, I think we can
that
cover
we
that.
did before, and now we just got those results. And so, we're trying to, again, just do these things and keep Bryce as a very high priority and work with him on the things that he needs while we get me the help that I need. But that's all for another day. I wanted to get on here while I had a good window and share this news so that you all would know, that you all would be able to pray for our little family. And, you've been so supportive with the podcast, and that's all that we've been able to share with you. And this is just another way that you can be supportive. And then if we don't get on here for, a couple weeks at a time, then you'll understand what's going on. But honestly, this is so important to us and such a great outlet for me personally that I will want to continue to do this. I have not been great about the newsletter. It's kind of dropped off, so I apologize to those who are getting it. It's just been too much with me and with my health. The Lena group I started, that was great, and then I couldn't do this month. But I still want to be able to do those things, and it's good outlets for me. So we'll get it all together. Right now, I think we're just trying to get through one day at a time, get these treatments going, see how I feel.
And how you respond.
And how I respond. And I think by the beginning of the year, we'll have a much better idea of where we're at and how my body's responding to this and the directions that we'll continue to go as we enter into 2025.
Yeah.
So being that this is Thanksgiving week, I just want to take this chance to say how thankful I am for each and every one of you who take time out of your day to listen to us, who support us, who send so much love out to us. And it just means the world to us. And I'm very thankful.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's it.
I think that will be all for now.
Yeah.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yep.
Enjoy your
turkeys.
holiday, and we will be back in touch soon.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.